Visit elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, you're supposed to say, good morning, Lee. Thank you very much, thank you. And of course, thank you for coming today. As I mentioned, my name is Lee Daniels. I have the pleasure of working for the president of the college as a special assistant for government and community affairs. And of course, the pleasure to be with all of you this morning. So on behalf of President Alan Ray and his wife, our First Lady, Angela, and of course, on behalf of the whole Elmhurst College community, we want to welcome you to the 44th Annual President's Community Breakfast. I think I remember the first one. So we are, of course, very, very delighted that you're all here today, particularly with the weather, and in view of the multiple polar vortexes, I rehearsed that, vortexes, multiple. This season, it's amazing that any of us are still here in Siberia. Maybe we'll figure out a better alternative, Mr. President. Maybe we can hold this in a warm weather climate next year or something like that. I like that. So I'm sure that all of you are aware of the rumor going around by many meteorologists that today is actually the first day of spring. Take a look. So in preparing for today, I was researching all the many reasons that a student would want to choose the Elmhurst experience. In fact, documented in a book that's put together, and I invite all of you to search this out, there are 101 reasons to choose the Elmhurst experience. And what a book this is, because it highlights our community as well as our college. It lists academics, professional preparation, arts and media, athletics, student life, and admission as the many reasons why a young person would choose the Elmhurst experience. Our famed cultural season, the Jazz Festival, music education, and many of our clinics and professional programs speak to the excellence for which this college is known. However, even with all the positive programs mentioned, Mr. President, I searched and searched and searched, and nowhere could I find any way to deal with the polar vortex phenomena. Maybe next year. I certainly hope not. Maybe we'll get our warm weather back. Seriously, have you thought lately on how fortunate we are to have this college as part of our community? As a young boy, I took my confirmation classes in Old Main. I played pickup football right in the mall behind you and enjoyed some of the plays in the theater. Convenient? Absolutely. Formative? Absolutely. Cultural exposure? You bet your life. In my formative years, I was exposed early on to many of the stated core values of the Elmhurst experience. Intellectual, community, social responsibility, stewardship, faith, meaning, and values. They all represent the real Elmhurst experience that exemplifies our community and, of course, its standards. But my experience wasn't fully realized until I started my law practice right here in Elmhurst and was able to enter public life. That's when I started to understand the real Elmhurst experience, the positive recognition that our community receives because an institution of higher learning is located here in our community. The excitement of students from throughout the country, and yes, from throughout the world. The benefits of our retail community, the major employment and job fulfillment, and the cultural events all speak highly of the Elmhurst experience. All contribute to this community's standing throughout the region. Take a moment, and you too will realize how the Elmhurst experience has impacted in a very positive way your life. Today represents a time when we in the community and Elmhurst College can recognize those of you that are so important to our existence and, yes, to this community. So we want to say thank you. Thank you for what you do to make this a great college and community. Now I would like to invite the Reverend H. Scott Matheny to give the invocation.
Thank you, Lee. 1, we all have the joy of getting up and having a great meal here. But will you join me in thanking these great students that got out of bed and came here to sing? Because they got out of bed and are here because they love this college and somebody said, you got to sing. Thank you, guys. And 2, the question is, did confirmation work for you? I should know, of all people.
I'm still going to class.
The list that Lee lined out is realized on Thursday night, just 2 days ago. Krista Tippett of National Public Radio spoke here, and she reminded me in Einstein's God of this line that some of you might not agree with as I call us to prayer, that Einstein's contention that imagination is more important than knowledge. Beloved, in all the ways that we understand the holy, and with thanks for this college and young men and women and alums that are back here, we give thanks. Let us join our hearts together in prayer. Let us pray. We hear in the greatness of your call, Almighty One, this morning, that imagination, knowledge, and wisdom that breeds into our minds, hearts, and souls, that we might know what is not, and what could be. For the Greeks know wisdom to be female, Sophia, and she calls forth our best efforts to know what is not, and what could be. And so for this 44th gathering, that we who are blessed with this community, nestled in Chicago with this amazing college, strengthen us and bless us, Almighty One, especially the young men and women who shall come to sing for glory, that they might find imagination, that they might grow in knowledge, and that they might find wisdom. And for all of us who are blessed here this morning, strengthen us with food for our bodies, conversation and table. Open our hearts and minds as President Ray brings word to us of hope, and strengthen us as we walk in love. For this time we give thanks, and all this we give your name praise. Amen. Thank you all. It's good to have you here. We are entering a holy season. For those of you who call yourself Christian, Ash Wednesday this week. We'll see you in the chapel.
Thank you, Reverend Matheny. Now it's my pleasure to welcome the Elmhurst College Chamber Singers under the direction of Chamber Singer President Emily Durham. I'm going to take a little moment to just recognize Emily, because the last time I saw her, she was 14 years old. And now she's a young woman doing great things here at Elmhurst College. As a matter of fact, I worked with her father for many, many years down in Springfield. So it's a pleasure for me to welcome Emily, and of course for all of you to recommend and to welcome the Elmhurst College Chamber Singers, who will perform during musical entertainment during our breakfast. Lastly, at this time, the Chartwell food service staff will be releasing tables to the buffets. And then when you're called, please go to the buffet. But join me in a round of applause for our great chamber singers from Elmhurst College.
Feeding her flock near to the mountainside. Feeding her flock near to the mountainside. The shepherds knew not whither she was gone. But after her lover on Mage's side, up and down we walk. She was missing
I hope you enjoyed your meal, and let's thank Chartwell for putting it together for us. Thank you, Chartwell. President Ray points to Elmhurst's tradition of combining the liberal arts and professional preparation when asked what first intrigued him about this college. He said, and I quote, "We think about how the things we learn can be related to the world beyond college. That's unlike some liberal arts colleges that have almost monastic model of education, in which the real world is at some distance from learning. We don't have the problem of reconciling reflection and action. Here, reflection and action have always gone hand in hand, and that exemplifies what this college is all about. Highly educated, President Ray holds a BA in philosophy, a master's degree in theological studies, a PhD in the study of religion, and a law degree. He served as a trustee of the Chicago Theological Seminary from 2008 to 2013, was appointed by President Obama to the National Advisory Council on Indian Education, and is on the board of the IC Catholic Prep. He and his wife, our First Lady Angela Ray, have 3 children and, of course, live right here in Elmhurst. So please recognize the First Lady of Elmhurst College, Angela Ray. And join me in welcoming our president, President Alan Ray.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the spring 2014 President's Community Breakfast at Elmhurst College. I really would like to thank all of you for interrupting your frequent trips to Florida to make room for this occasion. We're keeping the airlines, the local regionals in business. Before I begin my remarks, I want to recognize a number of people who play special roles in the life of the college and the city and the region who are with us today. I'll call your names, and if you would stand, please, I'd appreciate it. First of all, I want to recognize hardworking members of my cabinet, the people who have direct line responsibility for the various major areas of the college who are with us today. I'll call your names if you'd stand. Joe Emick, our Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations. Jim Coolidge, our Vice President and Chief Information Officer. Jim. Tim Ricordati, School of Professional Studies Dean. Tim, are you with us? There he is. And last but not least, Jim Winters, Vice President for Communications and Public Affairs. Jim, thank you. And I also have the pleasure of recognizing some of our trustees who have made the journey out in the cold this morning. Wes Beckton, I'll call your names if you'd all stand as a group. Wes Beckton, Larry Braskamp, Joel Herder, class of '59, and Hugh McLean are with us today. Gentlemen, thank you. You know, one of the things that we've done, I think with a great deal of determination in the past few years is to reach out and develop the ties that we have with our alumni. We have almost 30,000 alumni, and the hardworking people of the alumni board have thrown themselves into the work of thinking about ways in which we can create meaningful connections, and in some cases reconnections, for our alumni. May I ask all the members of the alumni board of the college to stand to be recognized. Thank you all so much. One of the mainstays of our relationship to the community barely needs any introduction to most of you. Elmhurst College and Community for over 20 years has been a friend to the college. It's finding a new shape now, and we look forward to working with EC&C in the future. I know the sort of the founding parents are here, Charlotte, Mushow, and Frank. May I ask all the members of the EC&C to please rise to be recognized. Thank you all so much. Well, we are also graced this morning with some of our elected officials who I would like to recognize. In state government, we're very fortunate to have with us Senator Michael Connolly. Senator. From DuPage, we have Chris Kaczarubas, the clerk of the DuPage 18th Judicial Circuit Court. Chris. And from the city of Elmhurst, the Honorable Diane Gutenkopf, 1st Ward Alderman. Diane. The Honorable Scott Levin, Alderman, 5th Ward. Scott. And we have the Honorable Elaine Lipovitz, Elmhurst College and Community and City Treasurer. And Mayor Steve Morley is with us. Steve. The Honorable Patty Spencer, EC&C and Elmhurst City Clerk. And from Lombard, we have with us no one, actually. You ought to check what you're reading before you get to the punchline. No, I'm sure we have many wonderful people from Lombard with us. Who knows? Many other places. Yeah, Lombard. There you go. Lombard. Good. Thank you. And one gentleman I know is an important figure here as an alderman, but wasn't on the list, is Kevin York. Kevin, are you with us still? Or did you have to go? Kevin, there you go. Now, this is the point when I say, if I've missed anyone, would you please stand and let us recognize you? So, there's a flurry of activity over here. I assume someone is in dire need of recognition. Right there. Thank you. There, thank you very much. Sorry to omit you in the role of the elect here. Yes, sorry. I'm a slave to the script. So, Senator Cullerton is with us. Senator, would you rise, please? And Representative Patty Belloc also. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody want to run for something? Yeah, everyone sit down. Well, let me get on with it then. This morning I want to share with you some observations on the state of the college as we look ahead, and offer some thoughts as well on the vision we have for the future. As we move through the spring of our 143rd year, Elmhurst College is completing its first ever 5-year strategic plan. Work on that plan started the day I joined the college, and now approaching 6 years ago, we're coming to the end of that 5 years. It was finished 9 months later in the spring of 2009. After 5 years, I think it's appropriate just to take a look back, admittedly a selective one, at what we've accomplished, as well as examine what remains to be done. You may be familiar with the core values that the college raised up in its plan: academic excellence, community, social responsibility and stewardship, and faith, meaning, and values. Lee mentioned them earlier. We hear them so often, it's as though they've been around for 143 years. And all of these, I think, have taken root in the minds and hearts of everyone associated with the college. These visions, values, and the mission and vision that we've articulated that accompany them are today at the center of what we call the Elmhurst experience. Our strategic goals build on and they're informed by those intangible commitments. Many of these goals have been achieved and others are in progress. Let me list a few of these for you. In the main ones, we've grown the number of full-time faculty quite intentionally and substantially from 132 when I arrived to 159. That's a very large increase. We sustained, though, a student-faculty ratio of 13:1, which is an enviable ratio, I think, since it allows us to ensure that kind of close faculty-student interaction that's really a hallmark of what we do. We've made significant improvements to our infrastructure over the last 5 years, including upgrades to our wireless and cable capacities throughout the campus, and making important renovations to the Mill Theater, to the Buick Recital Hall, and recently we renovated the physics lab thanks to some good support from our friends in the state. We invested in new space and technologies for our football program, replaced our 11-year-old artificial turf field, and added professional stadium lighting. and we're always happy to make that field available to our friends in the community. Our strategic plan committed us first and foremost to the self-formation and the professional preparation of our students. You know, we've always been a school that's had one foot resting on the liberal arts, that foundation of human knowledge and creativity, and the other foot resting on the professions, nursing, education, business, and so on. This is a strength, and this is a comparative advantage, I think, really, at a time when, if you read the papers or listen to the internet, at a time when nationally pure liberal arts colleges are struggling to survive. That's on the one hand. On the other, we have employers who are eager to hire graduates who have liberal education skills like oral and written communications. Well, our graduates, I think, are at home in both of these worlds. They leave us well prepared to succeed in grad school or their chosen profession, and they encounter the world with a broad perspective and critical habits of thought. We are, I think, ideally positioned by virtue of our heritage and our mission to meet the challenges of the early 21st century, so practical and yet so ideal. It should not be surprising, I think, then, that at a time when the popular media would tell you that going to college is a waste of time, maybe you've heard some of that or read it, waste of time and money, and that students can't expect to graduate in a solid future, Elmhurst College alumni were surveyed and recently reported that over 93% of them had a career job or grad school acceptance within 1 year of receiving their bachelor's degree. And further, when the common wisdom says that college grads end up with a mountain of debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars, the average Elmhurst College alumnus graduates with an average debt load of $23,000. Not insignificant, but roughly the cost of buying a new car on credit. And a car, you know, depreciates the minute it leaves the lot. And while over a lifetime, of course, we've read and we know that a college degree can earn graduates in excess of $1 million more than their non-college counterparts. Our strategic plan also called for us to increase the diversity of underrepresented groups within our student body. And through careful planning, we've succeeded in increasing that number from 17% of the entering class 5 years ago to a regular and routine 33 and 34% of the class. We're developing new programming for these students to retain them as well. I think in this way we're building an environment where all of our students, regardless of background or attributes, can engage with each other, take those social risks that are so important, and rehearse for living and succeeding in an increasingly complex world. My personal motto that I inject at all possible moments seems to be this, that Elmhurst College should strive to be as complex a place as the world our students will enter. If we only end up offering them a world that they knew in high school, we are failing them. Our strategic plan called for us to examine the role of adult education in our programming, and it also called on us to engage the larger Chicagoland area and explore online technology. It also called for us to establish useful partnerships. Now, over the years, our grad programs and adult bachelor's accelerated programs had been in a slow but steady decline. Once, Elmhurst College had dominated the adult education industry. By 2011, our participation was negligible and woefully behind the quantum leaps in online teaching technology. In response, in 2012, we reinvented ourselves, and that's, I think, not too overstatement, and we launched the School for Professional Studies, headed by Dean Recordati. His portfolio includes bringing online education to the for-profit DeVry University, and he's brought those same management skills and values to bear on the business side of higher education for non-traditional learners. The SPS, as we call it, has exceeded our expectations in the number of programs it offers, the way in which it's created new ways of approving and reviewing and improving programs, and yes, in terms of net revenue. We've been very, very fortunate to see net revenues far in excess of what our financial pro formas had called for in the first year and a half of its life. So today, the SPS offers master's degrees, accelerated degrees, and even certificate programs that are geared to what today's employers want and what students need, offered in a combination of online, on-ground, and hybrid formats. Just to make this point really clear, in the past, these programs would be offered based on what the faculty could teach. Think about the difference. If you develop programs based on what faculty can teach, there is no necessary connection to what employers want or what students need, right? So we've inverted that model, and I think in a very sensible way. We've done market studies on all the degree programs that we've come up with. We only take the ones that have promise. We invest in them, thanks to the trustees, and through a very, what I would call a very professional management, have succeeded in making this a very important part of our present and our future. So for fall 2014 coming up, we're projecting a 37% increase in new student enrollments in our graduate programs compared to last year. And this is fueled by both new degree programs, for example, our Masters in Applied Geospatial Sciences, our Masters in Data Science, our Masters in Marketing Research, and our Nurses Masters Entry Program, but also by significant growth in existing programs like the MBA, the Master of Computer Information Systems, and the Master of Public Administration through increased marketing efforts. And through the SPS, we can now offer classes at the University Center of Lake County. Also, through the SPS, we're actively exploring important new partnerships that can serve our educational mission. One such partnership recently making the news is our new venture with Elmhurst Memorial Healthcare, which we're delighted to launch. It starts in the fall of 2014 when we open the doors to a new 4,500 square foot facility located on the ground floor of the new Elmhurst Memorial Hospital. The facility, which is called the Elmhurst College Simulation Center at Elmhurst Memorial Hospital, will offer state-of-the-art nurse and nurse student training. Students will respond to simulated electronic patients called SIMs, who can manifest virtually every symptom and behavior of actual patients. This allows our nursing students to learn some of the more dramatic routines without risking the life of real people. That's the point. If the Sims don't make it, you can just flip the switch and they come back on. So, I for one, am very happy to know that we have this. So, and also training in the hospital will be able to be electronically transmitted to our campus so that our students here can learn from what's happening there, which I think is a great boon for us. We broke ground with the hospital. Mary Lou Mastro, who's with us, the president of the hospital, and I took sledgehammers. There's documented newspaper proof of this, and we whacked a hole in the wall that existed. Very heavy sledgehammers, if you've ever picked these up. I put it now in my office. You know, it's a monitory kind of sign. Keeps people in line. But seriously, it was a marvelous moment for the community. I think everyone there was extremely excited by the kind of partnership that it symbolized. A long-awaited partnership, I know, for the college, and a very exciting future, I think, for all of us. Thanks to our strategic plan, the college enjoys a new capacity for alumni engagement and development. Our strategic goals have included renewed stewardship, and in service to that goal, over the last 5 years, we revamped our Office of Development and Alumni Relations. And we brought in new leadership and a deep bench of seasoned fundraising professionals. It's very important in these organizations, such as ours, that you take the long view, that you invest in those engines of wealth that will serve the college in high enrollment times and low enrollment times. Development is an absolute necessity, and I'm very pleased that we've been able to make some steps in that direction. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, we reinvigorated our alumni council. And we've opened alumni clubs for the first time in Chicago, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C., where we have large clusters of alumni. And we've also invested behind the scenes in data management software and training. So finally, I'm sure you've no doubt become aware of the college's commitment to bringing top-flight educational programming to our campus through our annual series of thematic public lectures, whether focused on poverty in unexpected places like DuPage, interfaith dialogue, civic engagement, science and technology, or issues and education, to name the very specific themes that we've offered this programming under. Each year, the EC cultural season, as we call it, I think has become a much anticipated and widely celebrated occasion in the life of our community and indeed throughout the Chicagoland area. And I certainly believe and I hope that many of you have had the opportunity to take in one of those events. So, in sum, our 2008-2009 strategic plan gave us a clear compass of mission and vision and core values with specific goals, as a strategic plan should. I've shown you some of the results. Quick recap: how the plan has dramatically grown our full-time faculty, changed the makeup of our student body, guided infrastructure improvement decisions, generated a renewed commitment to adult learning, and introduced systematic online education, laid the foundation for fruitful partnerships, re-energized our fundraising capacity, and raised our reputation for relevant educational programming for the community. I think some things that we've done stand out to me, but they don't fit so neatly into these large categories, so if you'll indulge me, just a few of these. At a time when more and more students, unfortunately, require mental health services nationally, we've stepped up and added counselors. At a college where hourly staff and non-college administrators have never had a formal, strong voice, we created just this past December the EC Staff Council, an elected body of hourly and administrative staff that sets its own agendas and will serve as a conduit for non-faculty employees to express views and concerns to myself and to others. I think that's, in retrospect, in another 5 years, I hope and I expect that will be a very important part of the growth of our community. Imagine that, these hundreds of people who never had a body in a college that has many, many formal councils and committees and so on. So now we have. We reinvigorated our historical ties to the United Church of Christ and joined schools at a national level to promote interfaith dialogue and service. And interfaith dialogue and service is now a clear part of the college's mission and reputation. And we raised campus consciousness about Native Americans through faculty research and course development funding, a speaking visit from the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, my own nation, and a revitalized Native American Heritage Week. And just as important, although I think often overlooked, over the last 5 years, we've raised the larger Chicago and national Native American consciousness about Elmhurst College. We're on the radar screen now. And we've done that through a variety of college roles and various speaking engagements. Oh yeah, and lest I forget, 2 years ago we went to a new high in our U.S. News rankings and have stayed there, reaching number 11 out of over 200 Midwestern schools in our category, and ahead of all the other colleges in our region that offer master's degrees. I think but a balanced view of the past 5 years also requires that I note for you where we have yet to realize our strategic plans. Just as important. Our goal of building a new science center remains unmet, a function of the dramatic and unexpected recession that hit us all in 2008, the academic year when our plan was adopted. But our planning for a new science facility continues apace behind the scenes. There's no more important bricks and mortar project for Elmhurst College, in the view of the trustees and me and the rest of this community, than the Science Center initiative, and in the coming 5 years, we will make every effort to break ground and complete this vital facility for our future. While we've exceeded our goals in increasing the percentage of students from underrepresented groups among our student body, I think we've had less success in hiring new full-time faculty and staff of color. While not wholly lacking from our recent hires, faculty and staff of color at the college remain distinctly in the minority, contrary to what our plan called for, and much work remains to be done here. Our goal of increasing stewardship has only been partially met by the growth of our Alumni and Development Office. We continue to work to increase the percent of our alumni who participate in annual giving, for example, to re-engage those alumni as new or active donors, and to increase our pool of major donor prospects. Work remains in finding and fully exploiting partnerships also with corporations, especially those in the sciences. Recent investments in faculty and other personnel have stressed our operating budget and have caused us to devote much time and energy to finding new, sustainable, significant revenue streams and identify areas where costs can be further contained or reduced. Like most schools of our type and size, Elmhurst College struggles to keep costs of attendance low and quality of education high. We compete fiercely with our regional peer schools for the best students, while always being mindful that tuition discounting comes at a cost to net revenues. It's simple business. This aspect of our lives here is a daily battle, and every college employee and trustee, I believe, brings an all-hands-on-deck attitude to address these financial concerns and to sustain the enormous gains I believe we've seen in the quality of Elmhurst education and the strength of Elmhurst's reputation, which precedes me. We can't go backwards. We can't go backwards through irresponsible cost-cutting. The old saw, I think, is true, that no business ever flourished by cutting their way to prosperity. So it's to the future and new opportunities we must look for us to realize this college's great potential. In the final part of my remarks this morning, I'd like to look ahead with you to one version of Elmhurst's future, a version informed by our past strategic plan, but also by our next one, which is now under development and is scheduled to be to the Board of Trustees for their review and approval this June. It's admittedly a vision that is mine. With those caveats, I've encouraged everyone at the college to think of our future 20 years from now, and then imagine what we must do in the next 6 years to get there. If you just look 5 years out, you're going to underestimate yourself. You're going to miss something. If you just look 20 years out, it'll be pie in the sky. So 20 years out, and then how do we get there in the next 6 years? That's the kind of discipline I've encouraged our community to take. Though the final plan is yet to be written, here's what I think the college will be headed toward in 2014 to 2020. The health sciences and healthcare professions will become increasingly important to American businesses and the American public. We have a large stake in the ground already here in our areas of nursing programs, multiple master's degrees in nursing, partnerships to provide joint degrees or credentials in ancillary fields like pharmacy and veterinary training, and now our partnership with Elmhurst Memorial Hospital. I envision dedication of resources to more programs in the health sciences, again carefully selected by the process I threw out to you a few minutes ago, market research and so on. More programs, for example, in occupational or physical therapy, which are large growth industries in America. Again, always looking over the horizon to say, where will the needs of American consumers be in 5 years and 20 years? I think that this is very important also in regards to the business of healthcare. And I see us adding more programs around the business of healthcare, particularly with the persistence and ubiquity of the Affordable Care Act. Most of all, I see completion of a science facility that's adequate to these academic programs and the research ambitions of our talented science faculty and their students. What else? Well, I also see significant growth in the number of undergraduate students we enroll, especially, though not exclusively, through online and hybrid learning techniques, as well as a continued expansion of our SPS, the School for Busy People, as we call it. SPS, School for Busy People. Growing programs where we see promise, but also trimming programs that have run their course or failed to catch fire. It's incredibly important, I think, for this institution, as it should be for all, to honestly take a look at programs all the time to see if they still are relevant, using whatever marker you wish, enrollments, profitability, faculty. And if they're not making it, get rid of them. Why do we endlessly build programs upon programs upon programs? And we have to have a discipline of cutting those programs back as well as adding new ones. I see more partnerships with healthcare providers, I think, but also with commercial labs and research companies, with anyone who has a hand in the development and delivery of healthcare. Beyond healthcare, we're going to continue to seek out mutually beneficial arrangements with other schools, not only liberal arts colleges, but I hope professional schools as well. We're going to grow other academic areas where we're strong and that show promise for generating substantial additional net revenues. Business, I think, our business program is clearly such an area. I think we must dramatically increase our MBA enrollments, which compared to the enrollments of other schools in the Chicago area we are much too small. And we must create new tracks, I think, in the business major that are aligned with industry trends. We can and must do the same in emerging subfields, for example, in computers and information systems. That's another hotbed of imagination and career opportunity for our students. But in this environment, the liberal arts will not be neglected. We will always be dedicated to educating one person at a time through close interaction between faculty and student, as I know many of you alumni in the audience could attest. Formation of the whole person and self-formation by that person will continue to be important. Helping our students attain orientation in an increasingly complex world and a rich cultural and historical context is always going to be central to what sets us apart from larger institutions. And our strategic plan will reflect those commitments. I also foresee our strategic plan to call for ways of making our campus a stronger, more vibrant student community. We can't forget that community takes place in space and time. With a population here of half commuters, we have to work harder to find ways to keep our students on campus after classes and on weekends. This is as enduring a need here as more parking, the inevitable more parking, and probably only slightly less tractable. We need more student gathering spaces on campus, I think, and we're working on that. Things like cafes and meeting rooms, simply meeting rooms, where affinity groups of various kinds can get together. Space. We need to expand the hours and improve facilities for our recreational opportunities. And I think we look seriously at developing intramural sports. I think nothing captures the imagination of 18 to 21-year-olds like good intramural sports, which we don't have now. Put it this way, the fun factor in going to college is important, not just from a quality of life perspective for our students, but because doing it right will give us a competitive edge over other schools that have already gotten this point. Indeed, it's becoming increasingly clear to me that Elmhurst College's perhaps biggest impediment to soaring success may have little to do with academic quality. See our U.S. News rankings. But it has a great deal to do with, dare I say, the scarcity of fun. Perhaps it's our Germanic roots, but we're a very earnest place. I mean, we've got core values. We do serious very well, right? Do we do serious well? We do. I think we are less good at the kind of systematic frippery and frolics that would keep 18 to 21-year-olds on our campus on evenings and weekends. It's especially important for us to take this phenomenon seriously since half our students are commuters, and that percentage is unlikely to change in the future. I think if we wish to keep them down on the farm, as it were, it would help to be a little more like Paris and a little less like Peoria. No diss to Peoria. I hear groans going on. I love Peoria. Okay, what about institutional changes ahead? The growth of our faculty and academic programs and the complexity of our external arrangements with third parties, I think, may even lead us to create other schools. Joining the SPS in the future may be schools for nursing and health sciences, for education, for business, or for music. Further, if present directions prove true, I suspect we'll have a significant stake in the international student market. We will court transfer students more aggressively and more intelligently, and we will be educating more and more of international students here on our campus. We'll change in ways in which we cannot know today when faced with the mission and market imperatives of a truly international campus. Who knows? Irrespective of internal administrative changes, we may find that calling ourselves a university better describes our present and future as it becomes increasingly complex and engaged with the larger world. But as we know today, and will no doubt attest in 2020, growth for its own sake is a luxury higher education can't afford. As I said before, just piling academic programs higher and higher is not acceptable. So with expansion of faculty programs and administration must come a critical eye to appraise what's no longer needed. We must share a collective willingness to systematically identify and disencumber ourselves not only of dated academic programs, but inefficient administrative and faculty ways of doing things. This, I predict, will be even more difficult for our campus. As any of you that have worked in business will attest, I'm sure, every institution is path dependent to some degree. But academic institutions, I think, seem to have a unique affinity for perpetuating both excellence and inefficiency, for fostering devotion to time-honored tradition, and engendering fear of change. Let's be clear, however, it's our lot to live in a time of fundamental change, and Elmhurst is a college, not an ostrich farm. Therefore, as we move on from 2014 to 2020 and beyond, I think Elmhurst College has to embrace an ethic of innovation to thrive, an ethic of innovation which says it's good to stay alert and to question the status quo because I don't know what will happen tomorrow and I may become somebody's lunch, right? An ethic of innovation that says it's good to make reasonable changes, even radical ones, even painful ones, if my long-term well-being and that of those I care about depends on it. Or in brief, let there be no sacred cows. Long-lasting change, even for the better, though, can't be imposed simply from the top. Still less, I think, should this change be the rat's frantic response to a sinking ship. Living out an ethic of innovation takes keen self-awareness. It takes imagination. It takes resourcefulness. It takes collective action, and it takes courage. It requires a tolerance for ambiguity and the willingness to take reasonable risks. None of these traits, I note, are ones typically associated with institutions of higher education. But they must become so if we in higher education are to respond resourcefully and productively to what I think lies ahead for us all. If some of you listeners who are not part of higher education feel a kind of twinge of recognition in my remarks, then I think you see how widespread that era of change actually is. This is not a phenomenon limited to colleges and universities. It extends to businesses of every type, to governments and civic associations, to retirees and to children. Thus, it pertains to business people who aren't sure that their products are still relevant to consumers, to government leaders worried about the state of Illinois. What a complex set of issues that raises. To post-boomers worried about Social Security, and even to young people who have to select career paths. Since change is ubiquitous, the ethic of innovation that I'm calling for applies to everyone. In an era of radical instability, what's your strategic plan? But inevitable change also brings the prospect of new beginnings. Change can be a harbinger of hope. In closing, I want to offer some words that I shared at the Elmhurst College, Elmhurst Memorial Hospital groundbreaking last month. Louis Pasteur said, "Luck favors the prepared mind." At Elmhurst College, we're in the business of preparing minds, so our students may be among the lucky ones. If your mind is prepared for the future, you may be lucky too. I also offer you the words of the neuroscientist and psychologist Angela Lee Duckworth, whose work centers on the relationship between persistence and success. In a recent TED Talk, Dr. Duckworth said this: "Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. With a prepared mind, luck, and grit on our side, how can we fail?" Thank you for coming today. Have a productive and warm spring someday, and I'll see you around campus. Thank you. Thank you.
You gotta love this guy. He just gave me a degree in fun factor. And Alan, I gotta tell you, I got that degree in college, so I didn't miss that part. It was the other part of learning that was a little more difficult. Every organization that succeeds has a leader. And you could call him a quarterback of a team, whether it's in football or some other sport. But just like business, we're honored to have our leader, Alan Ray. So please give him another round of applause. But it's not enough to have a great leader. We also have to have a great faculty, great students, and above all, a great community, which you all represent. It's all a part of the Elmhurst experience that we highlighted today. So as you leave here and go on further to your day and your activity, and to stay warm, remember what this is all about. This is about you. This is about helping educate the leaders of tomorrow and our students. And together, we will make that happen. I want to take a little liberty of recognizing some of our partners that are so important to us. Look at this great community led by the college and, of course, by the Elmhurst Memorial Hospital. Please give your best to Lou Mastro, the head of Elmhurst Memorial Hospital. Lou, you and the hospital are also an integral part of the Elmhurst experience. Our reach is far, our reach is great. Today we're honored to have people from the Haymarket Center, who hold their Summer Institute in Drug and Alcohol Treatment, recognize the Haymarket Center led by Ray Sochek. Just a few housekeeping measures. Please note on your table, we have several items of interest to you. I must personally admit that one of my favorites is Illinois' Reckoning. This will be held on Friday, March 7th at Drury Lane. We expect an outstanding attendance, and you can register for that by going online to www.elmhurst.edu, or you can walk outside right out that door and buy the tickets for the event. Now, we have armed guards there, so if you think you're going to get out without buying a ticket, that's a mistake. But look at this great panel we have talking about Illinois' Reckoning, solving the problems, fulfilling the promise. Please join us for that great event. I also encourage you to attend and sign up for Elmhurst College's 5th annual An Evening for Scholarships on March 15th here on campus. Last year, $300,000 was raised to support our students who might not be able to afford an Elmhurst education without scholarship support. There is still time to purchase tables or tickets. Joe Emick, who handles all of those matters, is here. Feel free to talk to him, and Meg, and feel free to talk to the two of them. They will have tickets for you available. There's also a raffle I might point out to you on your table, and that raffle, the winner will have a chance to travel to one of 3 wonderful locations. I might add, warm locations, and including Costa Rica. Now, doesn't that sound good today? So cough up $100 and you can be part of that too. Also on your table is an invite to the scholarship dinner, which is on your table. Grab that with you and make sure that you become part of it. We also have the Blue Jay Backer golf outing, one of the favorites of Joe Herter, and he kind of leads that every year. So the Blue Jay Backer golf outing is on June 10th. And of course, lastly, in the center of your table, you have our cultural season. There is no college in Midwest, or for that matter, I believe in the country, that has a better cultural season than Elmhurst College. Please join us for one, if not all, of the events. In closing, let me thank Peggy Stanko and her great staff that helped put this great breakfast together. Peggy. And of course, all of you for being part of the Elmhurst experience. Thank you. Have a warm day, and we'll see you at the next event.
The Churchville Schoolhouse opens the door to the best education in history. Visitors to the Churchville Schoolhouse take a step back in time to watch history unfold in a restored National Register of Historic Places property that dates to the Civil War era. Students of today walk in the footsteps of local farm children from the early days of DuPage County for an authentic living history experience led by a schoolmarm of the early 1900s. A visit to the Churchville Schoolhouse is hands-on, educational, and fun. Participants use slate chalkboards and McGuffey readers for the day's lessons. And children will be asked to follow proper classroom etiquette. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are practiced, and students test their skills during an old-fashioned spelling bee. And of course, no school day is complete without recess featuring games of the early 1900s. The schoolhouse is a popular place for scouts and day camps, too. Group visits can also be arranged for service clubs, tour groups, and other adult organizations. The Churchville Schoolhouse Living History program is operated by the Elmhurst Historical Museum. Call the museum today to book a field trip or find out more information. Call 630-833-1457 or visit our website at churchvilleschoolhouse.org. The Churchville Schoolhouse is waiting to open the doors for your school or community group. Plan a memorable learning experience today for the best education in history.